the coming years, Q interacted with the Federation crew on various occasions, and while his meddling was often negatively received, he helped Picard a number of times, even acting as a sort of spiritual guide to confront and understand the choices of his past. For a time, he took one of the captain's former love interests, Vash, on an adventure across the galaxy, promising Picard to keep her safe. However, she broke off their partnership in 2369. On another occasion, after two Q living on Earth were executed by the Continuum, their daughter grew older and developed powers, causing Q to show up and bring her into the Continuum. When Q later visited the Federation outpost of Deep Space Nine, he mockingly challenged Commander Benjamin Sisko to a fight. Yet to his surprise, Sisko did not have the same aversion to violence as Picard, and he punched Q in the face. 7 years after beginning the trial of humanity, Q once again appeared before Picard, arranging yet another test, this time involving a time travel mystery. With the help of his Q ally, Picard eventually solved the problem, and Q confessed the Continuum was testing humanity's ability to understand more advanced concepts about the nature of the universe. Although they passed the test, Q yet again proclaimed, "The trial never ends." Later, when the crew of the USS Voyager was stranded in the Delta Quadrant, they accidentally released a Q from prison, prompting the former rebel Q to appear and attempt recapturing the criminal. However, the incarcerated Q, called Quinn, then requested asylum on Voyager, explaining that his crime was a desire to end his own life, an action forbidden by the Continuum. When Captain Janeway agreed to judge a hearing, Quinn argued that the Q lived so long and experienced so much, the Continuum was now a place where nothing happened, where their people were so apathetic they no longer even spoke to each other. Quinn, who was once a great philosopher, saw that severe stagnation in their society was a problem, and was so inspired by the antics of the rebel Q, he chose to act by ending his own life. He then pointed out the irony that the renegade he admired was now just like all the others, trying to stop a free thinker from going against the system. Throughout the hearing, they learned Quinn was an important figure in galactic history who influenced a number of important historical events, including helping Isaac Newton make discoveries, saving the life of William Riker's ancestor, and starting a 100-year war between Romulans and Vulcans. It was argued that such an important being could not simply be allowed to end his life, as the repercussions might be drastic for the Continuum, which could then spill out into the rest of the universe. At one point, the Rebel Q attempted to bribe Janeway, offering to take the stranded Voyager crew home to the Alpha Quadrant for a favorable ruling, but she declined. As it turned out, Voyager's presence in the Delta Quadrant went on to have massive repercussions, including a time travel event, where Voyager became involved with 29th century technology ending up on Earth in the past, leading to the technological revolution of the 20th century and the eventual formation of Starfleet and the Federation. Therefore, it's possible this was yet another test by Q, as Janeway accepting his bribe would have meant none of those events occurred, and the Federation may have never existed. In the end, Janeway judged in favor of Quinn and the rights of the individual, forcing Q to make him mortal. Janeway then tried to convince Quinn to find happiness living out his mortal life, but he killed himself soon after. Although Q argued against this result, he could not help but admire Quinn's conviction, inspiring a return to his rebellious ways, which started by helping Quinn procure the poison used to end his life. As predicted, when word of Quinn's death reached the Continuum, it caused great upheaval, as a faction following the Rebel Q started a movement for change, while others wished to keep things the same. This sparked a vicious civil war that killed many of their people, and caused supernovas to erupt throughout the galaxy. Peace was eventually established thanks to the aid of the USS Voyager, resulting in the Rebel Q agreeing to mate with a female Q to produce the first child ever born inside the Continuum. It was hoped that Q Jr. would lead their people toward a new future, but he grew up wild, arrogant, and selfish, causing Q to leave his son with the Voyager crew so they might teach him human values. Though it was a challenging experience, his behavior improved, and these changes, along with the importance of his father, convinced the Continuum to allow the boy back. As a reward for their help, Q offered Janeway new coordinates that would take several years off their long journey back to the Alpha Quadrant, and when she asked why he didn't take them all the way home, Q explained doing all the work for Voyager would set a bad example for his son. Yet once again, it seems likely Q had a larger plan in place. By creating a new route for Voyager, he set them on a direct path with a Borg transwarp hub, capable of transporting ships vast distances in mere moments. Although the original plan was to go around because it was too dangerous, a future Admiral Janeway traveled back in time and sacrificed her life to get Voyager home immediately, and in doing so destroyed the transwarp hub, landing a devastating blow against the Borg. Though the Q were extremely powerful, they too feared provoking this widespread cybernetic species, and so perhaps Q sent Voyager on a path that would not only get them home quickly, but also hurt the Borg. According to a possible alternative timeline, Q eventually returned to have several more interactions with Jean-Luc Picard up until 2401, when it was revealed the Q species was not really immortal. Q felt his powers draining and knew he didn't have much time left, so used his final moments to help his old friend Picard travel through time and come to terms with the death of his mother. Then with his final bit of strength, he said goodbye and returned Picard to 2401, even bringing back a friend who passed away as a final gift. The next year, despite losing his life, Q appeared before Picard's son, Jack Crusher, claiming he could be there because Q did not experience time in the same linear fashion as humans. He then made it clear that while Picard's trial was over, Jack's had just begun. A special thanks to all those who contribute to Civilization X, like Tamika the Black Wolf, Tom Moonstruck Waters, Ambassador Alex Nunez, and Admiral Flint. If you'd like to help the channel, be sure to give a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and click on the links below, or else go to patreon.com/CivilizationX, where you can gain early access to videos, vote on future content, and watch the Patreon-only series, Heroes of Lore and Legend.